Hey there, it's Cookies, and the AAA genre has been stuck in between a bit of a rock and a hard place over recent years. The industry began topsiding alongside massive layoffs and a lack of creativity over commercial success. Absolutely hurts to see. And even more so is the amount of wasted potential with talent on the market right now. In comes Claire Obscur, Expedition 33, which grabbed me by the throat from the opening scene and may be a bit of a renaissance for both the genre of action RPGs alongside a formula to build off of in the near future. We have something fresh, something new, something that honestly the industry needs. Something worth digging your teeth into that we haven't really seen before. Welcome to the current gen.
'68. Elodie's expedition.
You know the commanders of every expedition.
Expedition 68. Their boat was blown into the air by a storm. Lumiere lost sight of it, but assumed they crashed on the continent.
And they survived. The storm, at least.
Before we jump into it, be sure to like and subscribe, or dislike and describe on why I absolutely suck ass at RPG games. Now, I do want to preface this review with something quite important to me. The developers for Claire Obscur. I do want to note the size of this team, and I'm going to come back to it later. This game, what you're about to see, was made by, you heard it, roughly 30 people. Keep that in mind as we go forward, because I'm going to revisit this point near the end of the video. If you're unfamiliar, Claire Obscur has a pretty fascinating setup. See, there's this being called the Paintress, and every year she paints a new number. When she does, every person of that age, they get fucked and die. Not literally, they just fucking die. It's quite metal now, am I right? Every year, the people dying get younger. So every year, the people of Lumiere send a volunteer expedition of people with 1 year left to live on a desperate, impossible, doomed mission. Go to the continent across the sea and kill the paintress so she can never paint death again. Expeditions have been going on for a while now in this world. You'll find journals from Expedition 84, so if you can do the math in your head, you'll get how desperate this whole thing is and how young, but still older than the average RPG protagonist, your characters are. Which goes for such an original tale in the industry that hooks you in. Questions aplenty, like another episode of Severance, which this game shares some DNA with despite being in a more fantastical setting. That uncanny valley approach to conversations reigns true, and the mystery never stops evolving even towards its dramatic conclusion. Things get weirder once your crew lands on the continent. They almost immediately run into an old man who nearly beats the living shit out of the whole expedition single-handedly. You play now as Gustave, however you prefer, one of the survivors, traumatized and alone, walking through countless corpses from other expeditions and his own. He's about to shoot himself when he's found by Lune, another member of the expedition. She's not blind to reality. They're probably both gonna die for fuck's sake. But expedition members swear an oath. When one falls, we continue. As long as one of them stands, their fight isn't over. Now, you may be wondering why I'm giving you a bit more of an exposition dump for the beginning of the game. That is, this is a smaller game studio, and AA budget titles tend to fall between, again, another rock and a hard place when it comes to setting the expectations within your presentation, especially in the opening hours. This title swings way above its weight class, and it hooked me almost immediately. Furthermore, it's a testament to the type of storytelling this game has. See, our main characters, Lune and Gustave, clearly care about each other, but they don't always get along. When they find an unsigned message indicating another member of the expedition, Gustave wants to drop everything and try to save them and then get out of Dodge. Lune is worried that the whole thing is a trap. Neither one of them has it easy. None of the characters in this world do. They're written well into the experiences that they're going through. They don't always agree, and they're dealing with guilt and loss and trauma, and they're not always kind to one another in the heat of the moment, but you will see glimpses of how they truly care about one another. At the end of these types of exchanges, they will even share a laugh, and it's not over the top like Final Fantasy X. Compelling characters are complex and flawed. Expedition 33 understands this to a T. Expedition 33 shares a lot in common, though, with Final Fantasy X. These environments may be linear, but they're fracking gorgeous, whether you're standing atop a hill looking at the indigo tree, or both underwater and somehow not.
Over there. A hut.
Slow down. We don't know what's inside yet.
Expedition 33, it's a visual feast, and I stopped in every environment I entered to marvel at the beauty and everything that was on display. I was going there. I am in this place. RPG traversal now, it's much more akin to titles in the mid-2000s, and oddly enough, it is a breath of fresh air compared to constantly walking everywhere, which does not bother me anyway, because, again, this game just looks fucking good, and it runs stellar at a clean 60 frames. The game itself, it has a wide cast of characters that will engage you, which is what makes RPGs grand. The world building, it's next level. The setups are grandiose, but the umbrella that brings it all together, and what we're really here for, is that combat itself.
You're right.
It only attacks when...
It's coming! Let's spill some ink.
Obscur may be turn-based, but it's not a DVD menu. There's a lot of depth here. Every character has a melee and ranged attack, the latter of which you have to aim manually, increasing the skill gap for players. Melee attacks build AP, and range attacks will spend it. You'll also need AP for skills, unique attacks that each character has in their arsenal. And on top of that, each character has a particular attribute. Gustave can use certain skills to build up stacks of overcharge, which he can then spend to cash out for a devastating attack. Lune's spells grant elemental stains that can supercharge her other spells for additional effects and damage. Also my favorite, a character you reach out to later in the game, can switch between 3 different stances offering buffs to attack, AP generation, and defense. Managing your AP, setting up a big combo, and planning ahead matters. Just like in Final Fantasy X, the turn order is displayed on the left side of the screen, so you can plan every turn in advance. But this is where the game gets absolutely beautiful, where strategy itself is only half the battle. The other half is moment-to-moment execution. You don't just choose an option and wait for a canned animation to play out. When an enemy attacks you, you can dodge, parry, or jump to avoid it. Dodging avoids attacks, while parrying nets you a potentially huge counterattack and awards AP, also looking cool as shit. but has a tighter window. Sometimes the only way out is to jump over something, and vice versa. Sure, you can engage in the time-honored tradition of blocking with your face, but the harder fights will force you to engage with these defensive mechanics, and I will just say this, the latter third of the adventure will beat the living shit out of you if you don't get good early on.
It seems peaceful, as long as we don't touch the flowers.
Yeah, let's not get too sentimental. It's still a painter's creation. Damn, Maya, what was that?
It felt familiar somehow.
Gustav, we won't understand what's going on if we kill everything that moves.
The gestural village must be ahead.
You know what Nevrons are capable of.
She'll be fine.
She'll be fine.
And if you parry an attack that hits your whole squad, all of them strike back in a beautifully choreographed counterattack that never gets old. It's like Final Fantasy VII Remake mixed in with Persona and a dash of The Lost Odyssey, and I am more ticked off we waited this long for such a beautifully executed design philosophy. RPGs are not my favorite game. They're not even my favorite titles. I've always had issues with games that feel like there's a ton of filler. While I love Persona 5, for example, as it is one of my all-time favorite games, even I can admit, as cool as the combat style is, after 150 hours, it does start to run out of tricks to keep me hooked, and I begin going through the motions. Maybe because there is something new here, but I never had that feeling of running through the motions with this game's combat. As a matter of fact, I embraced it and smiled every single time it came on screen. Perhaps the greatest connection in this game's combatical DNA, which is now a term I don't care, is that it has a lot in its soul with, well, Dark Souls. Yes, some enemies can one-shot kill you, but that's the thing. The enemies in this turn-based-esque game, they have to hit you. If you can dodge and parry, you can win every single fight. It does not matter. Which is the ultimate genius behind the title's combat, and which elevates it beyond even some of the best RPGs in the entire industry. It made me, someone who's not a diehard RPG fan, well, it made me a fan. Then there's the back-end stuff called Pictos and Luminas. You can equip up to 3 of these to any character, which provides buffs like shooting this enemy might light them on fire, or attacks do more damage, or killing an enemy grants more AP, as well as stat upgrades. Win enough battles with a Picto equipped, and you can have everyone equip its own effects, a little bit of Dead by Daylight-esque, minus the stat bonuses, provided they have the required points, of course. And this is where you can do some really fucking off-the-wall shit. For example, one character can have a skill that puts her in a virtuous stance, where she does 200% damage, only if she uses it while the enemy is burning. Normally, you'd have to have somebody use another skill to set this up, but what if you gave Gustave and Lune a Lumina that means their ranged attacks are likely to set enemies on fire? Or maybe you equip a Picto that cranks up your base attack damage, or that awards more AP for nailing a parry, allowing you to stay on the offensive longer than you'd normally be able to. Games like Elden Ring have difficulty imbalances out the wazoo, but I appreciate how they allow you as the player to use your brain to think of creative OP builds. The same goes here for Claire Obscur 33. Sandfall tees up a strong introduction with an evolving door of characters that grow on you over the game's runtime. The combat and stellar boss encounters challenge your ideas of leveling up and progression, merging both reactive and active combat designs, making this package worthwhile. Sure, I may sound like I'm absolutely in love with this game, and just like A Plague Tale when it came out way, way back. Both titles took a linear approach to the narrative development of characters as well as the world exploration, but left you in such an engrossing story structure that makes every hour just it's one more piece of a puzzle you just wants to that you simply want to continue chasing. Sure, not everything is perfect. There are, and I'll be honest, some late game revelations that may not stand up to the creative mystery presented. But that isn't entirely the point either. While the overall reason for the Paintress, it may be a tad more one-dimensional than I wanted, the true story is how these characters respond to the stakes. It's an introspective tale that rivals the best in the genre. Final Fantasy VII, for example. And Claire is a clear frontrunner for a Dark Horse Game of the Year contender in a crowded year of releases. Hopefully, the story of its creation through Sandfall's team can be studied by other studios. You have a smaller studio with a smaller budget that seems to have really kind of cracked the code on what this industry wants next. There's been so much focus on games as a service, these online interactions, and I'll be honest, every single genre has started to get a tad stale. There have been some interesting titles in the past few years, like Alan Wake 2, for example, which kind of forced the mold quite a bit with its unique mechanics of switching realities, but it never really took it all the way. This game in particular uses that gameplay system that we haven't seen in really anything and elevates it tenfold. Everything in the story is better because of the risks these developers take. And while the story leaves a lot on the back end for future entries, this is one worth experiencing. Not to mention, on top of the graphics, you have outstanding voiceover work with some well-designed cinematic cutscenes on top of a soundtrack that is absolutely chef's kiss.
The dead here don't disappear like in Lumiere. Their chroma stays inside their bodies.
On the beach, some did disappear.
He wasn't a Nevron.
Something about the way Nevron's kills seems to affect our chroma.
Perhaps your friend here can enlighten us. It really does speak.
What do you mean, light?
Did you kill these people?
Painted? By the Paintress? If we bring it light, perhaps we can learn more.
I'm not sure that's a good idea.
I know in this video I spent a lot of time praising the positives, and it's hard not to because Sandfall Interactive, like I mentioned near the beginning, having nearly 30 people on a AA budget makes something that feels transcendental for the industry during a time when games are bloating their entire budget, hundreds of millions of dollars, with lengthy development cycles. Having your team come in like this, it reminds me of Black Myth Wukong last year, where it's not necessarily where it's incredibly well designed. There's a lot of thought in the interactive elements, especially as an RPG, and it just nails everything out of the park. This is easily a Dark Horse Game of the Year contender, and I can see it sneaking pretty high on a lot of people's lists. Sandfall deserves to be praised, and this is a practice where hopefully we see more of it in the coming years, especially as more production-based companies like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo continue to reevaluate how games should be budgeted, marketed, as well as the creative process as a whole. This game is an absolute slam dunk for not just developers in the industry, but for gamers as a whole. This is easily one you can't miss. 5 glowing revelations out of 5. Again, if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. As always, I'm your boy Cookies, signing off.